Hello and
Oh, we're live.
welcome. Carrie here from Healing Humanity, the power of a proper human diet. And today I'm thankful, grateful, blessed, honored to welcome my friend from the UK, George. George, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Kerry. As always, very excited to be here. It was great of you to ask me at fairly short notice. But I think we've got enough to talk about tonight, and I think I've just about got enough knowledge to make myself look not quite as stupid as I probably am. So yeah, and I see we've got a lot of my friends and your friends in the chat, our friends in the chat. So let's hope we can have a good show with them, and yeah, and hopefully we can interact with them nicely, because I know that we've got a lot of coaches in there who are going to have a lot of questions to ask us.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in the chat. I'm going to be trying to do my best to man the chat. If you guys have a question for George or myself, or a question about the book that we're going to be talking about, please post it with a QQQ, and I will do the best I can to get to it. We're going to be going over some history and a really incredible book that George told me about, and then I started digging into a little bit. I haven't read the book myself. I've read some of the highlights from it. I think George has done the same, but it's called The Philosophy of the Stomach, and it's from 1856. And before we jump in and start talking about that, please post in the sidebar where you're from, what you ate today, and if you have any questions for George or myself. And then, George, I know we got a good audience coming in here right now, but for those that aren't familiar with you, would you mind just sharing real briefly your carnivore story and why you're so passionate about this?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Okay. You caught me by surprise. So I told this so many times. What's the elevators thing? March 1st, 2022. I weighed 293 pounds. I was very ill, very immobile, in a lot of pain, a lot of distress. I eventually managed to get a diagnosis from the British National Health Service, which was morbid obesity, very high triglycerides, a HbA1c of 6.7%. So I was type 2 diabetic. And I had a waistline of 44 inches to a height of 69 inches, and hypertension as well, of course. So I had all the five symptoms of metabolic syndrome, not to mention various other things such as boils, fungal infections on my skin, migraines, all the usual stuff, fatigue, stress, anxiety, depression. So yeah, diagnosis on March the 1st, 2022, was told by the idiot doctor that it was chronic and progressive. She issued me with prescriptions for metformin and I believe statins, though I can't tell you why, because I actually threw those prescriptions away and I never cashed them in. Why did I do that? Because I was fortunate enough to, as I left her office, I got a phone call from the other side of the clinic where I was, from a nurse practitioner called Kathy Moran. She said, "Come and see me." So I went through the clinic to the nurse's end, and she said, "Come on in, George." She sat me down and she said, "Right." She said, "You're a type 2 diabetic." I said, "Yes, I am. I know I am." And she said, "Right. Has anybody spoken to you about diet?" I said, "No." She said, "Right. Tell me what you eat." So I told her what I ate, which was the standard Western diet, but I didn't used to eat sort of cakes and sugar, but I ate a lot of pasta, potato, bread, rice, noodles, and things in sauce like chili con carne, curry, that sort of thing, and lots of bulky sandwiches like triple decker sandwiches, because that was a quick way of filling up. I thought the quick way of getting my calories. There was meat in there as well, no question about that, but it was a very carb heavy diet. And she looks at me kindly, looked me in the eyes, and instead of looking at me with contempt as the doctors had done, she looked at me with kindness and sympathy. And she said, "George, all carbs are sugar." Those are the 4 words. And I said to her, "What, even the ones that don't taste of sugar?" She said, "Yes." She said, "All carbs turn to glucose in your bloodstream, and an excess of glucose is type 2 diabetes." And I had this kind of light bulb moment above my head. I thought, there's something I can do about this. So we discussed briefly what I could do, because she obviously didn't have a lot of time. She wasn't even supposed to be talking to me. And the last words I said to her was, "We can do this," when I left her office. I haven't spoken to her physically since, but I have managed to thank her by email. So I left her office, I went home, and I had a start point, which was Professor Roy Taylor of Newcastle University here in the UK, who I knew about. He knew that type 2 diabetes was not a life sentence, but he had a method of basically putting people on 800 calories a day with protein shakes for 6 weeks and type 2 diabetes would go away. I didn't like that because I thought, well, how do you maintain it? If you go back to eating normally, it won't work, will it? But then I discovered low carb, and I thought, well, that appeals to me a lot more. And then I discovered the ketogenic diet through a workmate in construction. He was a bulldozer driver. And yet this bulldozer driver knew more about the ketogenic diet than your average medical doctor. What does that tell you about your average medical doctor, I ask? Anyway, so yeah, I went low carb keto, never heard of the carnivore diet, absolutely nothing to me. I was never intending to go carnivore. I just wanted to get rid of type 2 diabetes. Nurse Kathy told me to lose 5% of my body weight. In the first month, I lost 14 pounds, a stone in English terms, which is a key point. And I deflated like a balloon, Kerry. It was like the air coming out of a balloon. I just lost. By August, so 5 months on, I was 56 pounds down. That was in 5 months. So what was I was losing over 10 pounds a month. I was that encouraged by by my success. I actually asked for a second blood test, which I got on August the 4th of 2022. And I was due a standard routine follow-up phone call on August 22nd. On August 29th, the head diabetes nurse from my clinic phoned me in. Her name was Sandra. And she said, George, I need to talk to you urgently. I said, well, what have I done? So I thought, right, I made a real mistake here because obviously she needs to talk to me urgently. It's got to be bad news. I said, should I be worried? She said, no, absolutely not. In fact, quite the opposite. She said, I just need to know what you've done. I said, what do you mean? She said, you haven't got type 2 diabetes anymore. She said, you're not even pre-diabetic anymore. She said, you've actually dropped to 5.4% or 36 as it was in the UK. How did you do it? I said, I just went very low carbohydrate, and that's what's happened. And that's absolutely amazing because nobody else seemed to do it. You know, they were used to people having to have the metformin, and they were used to people carrying on eating as per normal. She said, nobody else does that, you know. And she said, how are you getting on the metformin? I said, I never cashed them in. What? She just couldn't believe it. So yeah, that was the key marker along the way. I knew then that I was on the right lines. I didn't even have YouTube at that point, so I didn't really. I was using Google, companies like the Mayo Clinic, Healthline, Cleveland Clinic, etc., just studying keto. But then I did discover YouTube as something other than a music platform. And I put in reversing type 2 diabetes. And the first thing that came up, I think, as we discovered the other night on Zoom, when I put Paul Brett Smith into a bit of a state, the first one that came up was reversing type 2 diabetes starts with ignoring the guidelines by the late, great, angelic Dr. Sarah Holberg. And if I'm not careful, I'm about to lose it on here, my composure, because she died in April 2022, unfortunately. But she was 18 minutes and 6 seconds of basically life-saving material. She wasn't carnivore, but she said that fat is the key to health. And that gave me that was the stepping stone. I used to watch that video 3 times a week, but I kind of moved on from there. But then obviously because I was researching keto, then carnivore suddenly started just dripping into the algorithm. And the key one for me, with how I discovered carnivore, was through Ken Berry and Kelly Hogan. Woman eats only meat for 13 years, and this happens. So I watched it and I was amazed. And basically I noted it, but I didn't see the need to go carnivore because I was doing so well on keto that I thought, well, I don't really need to go carnivore. It's a bit extreme. And I was still eating my veg, you know, I had got rid of all the root veg by that time, but I was still eating the cruciferous vegetables because, of course, they're good for you. And they've got fibre and you need fibre. But then I discovered Zoe Harkham, and she's a PhD over here in the country of Wales at Cardiff University. And she did an excellent video called What About Fibre? Go and find it. She is hilarious. And it proves to me that fibre actually is A, not necessary, and B, it is in fact an anti-nutrient, which is a problem. So I started eliminating more and more fibre. By August 23, I was down to salad veg only with my barbecues because I did like cucumber, I did like onion, and a couple of avocados and olives. Then I met my first friend in the carnivore community, the brilliant Larry Allhands, carnivore soldier. I'm sure you remember him. Yeah. Remembers the right word, because Larry seems to have sort of drifted off into the background. He's still around. I'm a friend of his on Facebook, but he's not producing anymore, and he's not sort of so dedicated to the carnivore community. Although when he signed off from us, he did promise me that he was staying carnivore. Anyway, Larry gave me my first ever interview, and I gave him his first ever interview on YouTube. And I told him about the onions and the cucumber and everything else. And the next morning, he did a feedback video and said, "George doesn't do things as I quite would do them." He said, "But how can I tell a man he was wrong when he was doing so well?" I thought, "Larry, you clever so-and-so, you are telling me very subtly that I am wrong." And I went away and I thought about it, and that was it. I admire Larry greatly, and I cut out all of the fiber. And that was when I went fiber free. So in other words, carnivore in 2023, although I carried on drinking alcohol because I've been an alcoholic most of my life. And that carried on for a further 2.5 years until March of this year. But as I've told everybody, March 17th this year, no more alcohol. And I feel a lot better for it as well. So I can highly recommend that you don't drink alcohol, because I'm the living proof that, life is better without it, basically. Many of us in this community have come through alcoholism in one, or just alcohol use in one way, shape or form. So that's how I became carnivore in August of 2023. We're now in October 25, so I've been fiber free. I can't really claim to be full carnivore because I'm still a coffee user, and I carried on drinking alcohol for up until March of this year. So we can safely say, though, that in solid form, I was fiber free since August of 23. Now that wasn't the 5-minute elevator version. It was 11 minutes and nearly 12 minutes. So anyway, that's my background as to how I got into carnivore. How I got into the carnivore community will come later down the line on this as we talk about it.
Excellent. I love it. I love the advice you were given too by that nurse. There's a lot of people, I got family members, type 2 diabetes, things like that they still don't understand that carbs break down as glucose in the blood. Blood doesn't know the difference if that's coming from a candy bar or an apple or whatever it may be. It all breaks down the same way. And I love the fact too that you found this, what ultimately convinced me to do carnivore was the type 2 diabetes video also. And that was one of the things I never had, but it was a Dr. Berry video, how to reverse type 2 diabetes. And I remember reading the comments, and it was just comment after comment, like, "Dr. Berry, you saved my life. Dr. Berry, my A1C went from this to this." I'm like, this is incredible. Like, I thought Dr. Berry was pulling something. There's no way this guy can be a legit doctor, until I started reading those comments. I'm like, this is real. This is worth exploring some more. So if anyone's interested in learning more about George, I have a link to George's YouTube channel in the description below. So make sure you follow George. Should we jump right into talking a little bit about this book, George?
Yeah, why not? That's a very good idea. I'm new to it myself, to be honest with you, Kerry. So you and I are probably about the same level of knowledge on this book, but we can talk about it. How are we going to start the discussion?
Well, maybe the first thing, how did you even come across this? Because I had this one book. It's called Eat Meat 3 Times a Day. And actually, I bought it off of Amazon. It's a reprinted copy, but it was from the 40s. And I was so happy, 1940s. I was so happy finding that. I thought, this is like, well, there's Salisbury and there's like some older ones, but I'm like, they're talking about this in the 40s. This is crazy. Now you find this one, which is 1856. And I love history. I have so much to learn, though. But our little movie theater that my wife and I run, the deed, George, goes back to 1860. So it's right around the same time as this book.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was before Lincoln was president. That was before electricity and airplanes. And like you think 1860. That was a long time ago. But how did you even come across this book?
Okay, so basically, I'm not a great scientist. I'm not very good at science and that sort of thing. So I thought I need to find myself a sort of specialist role within the carnivore community. Now, what I am good at is words, history, and research. I'm a former British soldier. I was a specialist in the intelligence, in other words, the intel world, as you call it. So I was trained for a long, long time by the British government to do research and analysis of that research. I'm also a linguist. I was trained, I spoke French anyway, and I was trained by the British Army to be an Arabic linguist. So I was a Middle East specialist. So I was a research analyst specifically for the Middle East. I understand Islam, understand the Arabs, and that sort of thing. I'm a veteran of Desert Storm back in '91. I was just before the actual battle itself. I was attached to the United States Marine Corps, which was great. So I do have a crossover between the States and the Brits before. Just before the actual battle itself, I was taken back to the British, and we went through to the west of the USMC, who went directly pretty much into Kuwait. We went up, we did the flanking movement, the left hook, as General Norman Shortcott called it. I'm diverging here, but yeah, that was basically how I got my skills as being a research specialist. I know how to do research and how to analyze it. Now, I think back along, one of my coach friends, Miss Laugh-A-Lot, Nikki, she decided that she wanted to feature me on her channel as the Carnivore Historian. She was her that kind of gave me the title of the Carnivore Historian. And also Dr. Nelson was quite keen on my research as well. And he was actually encouraged because I did quite a bit of research during the course on various people like William Banting and others. I forget now, but I did quite a lot. So yeah, I fancy the role of the Carnivore Historian, and Dr. Nelson did joke, and I'm not sure if it is a joke now, that he would like to actually put together a lesson, and he would like George to be the teacher, and he would like George to write a book on the history of carnivore. So it was Dr. Nelson really who really pushed me into that role. And he actually kindly on Tuesday night invited me to last Tuesday, which is why I wasn't on the Healing Humanity Live. The Healing Humanity Live at Zoom. I was actually delivering the lecture to the KMT. And basically he asked me to deliver a lecture on some part of the carnivore history which interests me. So I thought, what can I do that's different? I thought, I know, I'll really do a deep dive into the history of carnivore. So I basically said to Google, Carnivore Diet History. Up comes Wikipedia, and it's the first line of Wikipedia. This chap Bernard Moncrief wrote this, and I thought, well, somebody else must have done that. But somebody else has. But as I was explaining just before we came on, it hasn't been picked up and run with like it should have been. I did find it on the World Carnivore Tribe Facebook today. The book is actually on there, but from 2023, which was kind of when you and I were just getting into the community, Kerry. So we weren't then advanced enough we weren't well known enough as we are now to actually pick it up and run with it. Right. So it was kind of, I just thought this is a story about the four people. Just remind myself, I made a note of it today.
While you do that, George, I just want to say a huge thanks to Tracy Johnson, $50 super chat. Yeah. Amazing. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. Every penny I get for the super chats goes 100% towards our Healing Humanity project. So thank you so much.
Yeah. Kerry, do you know about the four people called anybody, everybody, somebody, and nobody? Do you know their story?
No.
Okay, right. So it's one of these things. It's basically what drove me to actually create the first Great British Meetup, because I was always expecting somebody else to do it, because I was only a little George. I was fairly new in the carnivore community. I thought, well, anybody can do this, but it's not me because I'm not important enough. But then again, everybody thought that somebody would do it. So in the end, nobody did it. So basically, I then took the bull by the horns, grabbed our friend Carl Day and said, come on, Carl, somebody's got to organise a Great British Meetup. And we did. So it was, if I'm going to research, I thought, well, there must be other people out there who've researched the history, but everybody focuses on Ansel Keys. Everybody focused on William Banting, James Salisbury, who we discussed. So I thought, well, again, it's a question of anybody could have done it, but everybody thought somebody else would do it. So nobody did it. And once again, I decided to be nobody. So I did this, but it wasn't a deep dive. It was just simply put it into Google, Carnivore Diet History. Wikipedia is very hostile towards us, by the way, but it gave me what I needed. And then I found this excellent website, which I know you found as well, called www.metrition.com. Because I put in my next research set was putting in Bernard Moncrief book, and up came metrition.com. So have we got anybody in the chat who can post it? Have we got Lewis out there? No, Lewis is at a wedding tonight. He's the one who usually.
I posted it. I did post it in the description just before the call. So
lovely. Okay.
I'm going to post it in the chat now too, though. Let me. There we
go.
Yeah,
I expect so. Yeah.
So if you guys want to follow along.
Yeah, there we go. You've done it, Kerry. That's no worries. I was going to say we got rocking Coach Amy in there. She's quite a good that sort of thing as well. But there it is. So basically, if you get in there, you will find a synopsis of that book with a lot of quotations from it in the meat of the text. However, you will also find a link to the Google Books. Where is it? HTTPS, blah, 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 Google, and then the _ philosophy of _ the stomach, etc., etc. And that will take you to the entire book. So it's very easy to find and it's very easy to read for free. So as I was explaining to you earlier, Kerry, I am so flat out with everything that I'm doing in our world with, I'm working on improving my coaching skills. I'm setting up an LLC next week. I'm setting up an autumn meetup and a summer meetup next year. I haven't got time to. I'm doing 19-hour days now, and my wife Lainey is telling everybody that she never sees me. She thinks I've emigrated to America, apparently. So it's a question of finding the time to actually read that book. I mean, I've got 3 books in my desk here, one of which was from the Carnivore teacher, the ultra processed food one, and I haven't really got time. So yeah, anybody out there, Papa Carnivore, I'm his Carnivore twin. Anybody out there who's got time to read this book and give me and Kerry the feedback, and Dr. Nelson and Dr. Kiltz as well, we'd be highly grateful because, we haven't really.
Oh. Froze up a little. Hello.
Right.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
We're back. Yeah. There okay. So anybody out there who, we're all intelligent people, obviously we wouldn't be on the carnivore diet. So anybody out there who fancies the mission of calling that book up and reading it and giving us the feedback, I'd be very, very grateful as well, to be perfectly honest.
Right. Well, luckily the website we shared has got a really good sort of summary of it with some quotes.
Yeah, exactly.
I started digging into a little bit of that, and we were talking, George, before the call. It's very interesting. You brought up a good point. I shout out Charger Mopar Rick. I think he said wasn't Salisbury one of the first, and that's what I was thinking too when you said this. But this person, the author, is for Salisbury, and you pointed out, George, Bernard Moncrief. From what we understand from reading the summary, he was like really strict carnivore. Whereas I think Salisbury was 100%. Mostly just meat.
Yeah, basically, if I'll tell you what, we'll get a quote. It's right. Okay, I do not eat for the mere sake of gratifying my palate, but to satisfy my appetite. I cease eating when I have had enough. But with your condiments, drugs, and drinks, you cannot say when you've had enough. So what he was saying was that the bare version of the standard American diet with the condiments as sauces, drugs and drinks. So he was saying that, he was very strict carnivore. And he went on to say, I now make most frequently only 2 meals of meat daily, whilst I take a glass of milk whenever I please. So he was 100% meat and milk, which is 100% carnivore. And he was also 2-mad. So, the idea that 2-man has been a recent thing is utter nonsense. I want to use that B word that you know so well in English, but it's a bit rude. I better not. Our great friend who is sadly passed, Alex, apparently taught you the B word when you were over here in December of last year. Yeah. So yeah, that's one legacy. Well, Alex leaves a lot of legacies, but he taught Kerry the
he taught me several. Swear words. There was a couple of things, George, that I read in the summary that I found really interesting, like that, where this guy was ahead of his time, where you're reading it and you're like, this is almost now. So the OMAD being exclusively just meat, And then just some words like in the quotes. Here's one quote: "Wholesomeness was and is my principal motive in adhering to an exclusively animal diet." Hearing the word animal diet from like 1856 too, it's just kind of cool. Just the words they're using, even.
Yeah, exactly. It was. I think the subtitle of the book was an exclusively animal diet. So he didn't call it a carnivore diet, but he called it the animal diet. Now, interestingly enough, I decided to try and find when carnivore entered the lexicon, as a noun or a description. And I found it, the closest I could get was a guy called Robert Owen, who actually definitely introduced the word dinosaur into the lexicon. And it's believed that Robert Owen was probably the first person to describe meat eaters as carnivores. And that was only in 1854. This guy wrote his book in 1856, so he wouldn't probably have had the word carnivore available to him. So he called it the exclusively animal diet. So that's carnivore at the end of the day, isn't it?
And you know what else he said, George? The more I read this, I just really like this guy.
Yep. He's one of us.
He's one of us. And the thing in the title is cool. So an exclusively animal diet, as you pointed out, but then he even goes further, and in parentheses, he specifies without any vegetables or condiments, whatever.
He's
being very clear.
He wanted to make absolutely clear that, as we say, oh no, no, but he actually put it in the title, but without any vegetables. So he was 100% carnivore. As I said, he was meat and milk only, and you don't get much more carnivore than that. And actually, what was very interesting is that when he decided to change from what was then the standard American diet or the standard Western diet across to meat only, he actually did 6 months of milk only to cleanse his system, as he called it. And he actually found that that was very successful to him. I think he said that his former sunken face filled out. He rediscovered the joys of jumping over ditches and hedges. So that was on a milk only. He was drinking a lot of milk, but it was very successful. And then he reintroduced meat into the diet about 6 months later, and that was it. He said there was no going back. He did experiment. He did carry out experiments on himself, eating potatoes, eating bread, and it just made him ill. Right. So he actually proved to the world. But the thing is, he actually put in a disclaimer in the preface of the book. I read the preface of the book today, the preface, and he said, "I'm not a doctor," basically, and he said, in order to be I'm summarizing his words, but he said that basically in order to, in fact, no, I've got the words here. I'm being lazy. Just bear with me a second. He said, right, I felt that the lack or the want of a professional authority, which in our time appears to be requisite a means for everybody who has something to say with regard to health, the sway of the doctors over the bodies of the public being now as great as that of the priest over the mind was in former ages. So what he was saying is that he could not get the mainstream medical industry to support him, and he wasn't a doctor or a scientist. Therefore, he wasn't going to be taken seriously. So he was very cynical about the mainstream medical industry. Basically, everything that he did in 1856 is exactly what we are experiencing 170 years on.
170 years later. I was just going to say 170 years later, and it's verbatim exactly what's going on now.
Yeah,
it's just crazy.
It is absolutely crazy. And there's another one, a great quote of his, and that's, he said, I hope to see it generally admitted that the strength of men will be much increased by the adoption of my diet. That's what we're saying all the time, isn't it? And right, okay, this was his prediction, and it has yet to come true, but we want it to come true. There will be a time when the entire human race will live exclusively upon an exclusively animal diet. That was his prediction. It didn't come true, unfortunately.
Not yet.
Not yet. No, exactly. But the hugely sad thing about Bernard Moncrief is he wrote this book at the age of 35 in 1856. Now, there was so much potential. He was young. He was enthusiastic. There was so much potential. What he didn't have was a profession. And he found himself destitute by 1859 with no money, no income, living in in a rented accommodation in England, and very, very depressed. It was December of 1859, and it was obviously Christmas. There was people enjoying themselves. He had no money at all, absolutely zero. He was trying to subsist on a diet of, I know that sugar water was mentioned. He committed suicide. He committed to suicide on December the 28th of 1859. And the suicide note that he left for his landlady, he was a very decent chap. He said, "My heart is broken. Now you will know the secret of my miserable diet and why I was sitting in a room without fire, dispensing even with milk and tea, subsisting mainly on bread, potatoes, and sugar water, a diet which has so often plagued me with dysentery and which has all but ruined my constitution." So he was forced to eat the survival food, as Dr. Kiltz would call it. And that dragged him down into such a depression that he borrowed some money, went out, bought chloroform, and he killed himself on December the 28th, 1856. He was ashamed of the fact that he could not pay his landlady any rent, so he left her all of his possessions as some sort of he was a good bloke, in other words. He was a good man, but he was so depressed by the miserable diet that he described. And I'll just say it again, mainly on bread, potatoes, and sugar water. This stuff which we're supposed to be able to survive on, because a calorie is a calorie, and it doesn't matter where you get them from, does it?
Right.
It drove him to suicide. So, and it's so sad because basically he had so much to offer. He had so much.
So young too, writing all of this at that age, 30.
37. He was 35 when he wrote it, so he would have died at 37 or 38. So he had 40 years of influence ahead of him.
Yeah.
And it was robbed from. Imagine that he had gone through with people like James Salisbury and a guy called Arnaldo Cantani from Italy in the 1870s. Imagine they joined forces, just like we're doing now, just like Shawn Baker, Tony Hampton, Robert Kiltz, yourself, me, Dr. Berry. Everybody is joining forces now, and we are really pushing this forward. But he didn't have that support. He didn't have the support of the doctors. He didn't have any financial support. So basically, he took his own life through destitution and shame. And
it's so sad.
Yeah,
it's so sad. One of the things I'm realizing, though, learning more about this person and the book, there are so many lessons in here, George. It's really just the fact that potatoes and bread causes depression. Like,
yeah, exactly.
They didn't for 170 years. People still don't put that together until just recently. I've Chris Palmer and Dr. Georgia Eade talking about change your diet, change your mind. But 170 years later, but this was sadly something that he went through back then. So many other things in here too. I'm reading some of these quotes. I picked the next one, and every one, it's like this could be a lesson book for the modern day carnivore. For some of the questions that modern day carnivore has, this one I wanted to share real quick.
Yeah. Everything that he says is basically a blueprint for what we talk about now.
Yeah, totally applicable to today.
But we found it without him. It's
right.
It's weird. It's almost like a ghostly echo coming down through the centuries. It's like, it's almost like a shout coming down from 1856 down to us. It's, when you shout in a cave or something, the echo comes back to you, doesn't it? It's like hearing an echo of our own voices, but from 170 years ago. Bizarre. Yeah.
He says, another quote he has is, "It has also been found, not alone as a matter of general personal experience, but by direct experiment, that animal food is more digestible than vegetable food." More digestible.
That's another one. Exactly.
I recently had our good friend Kent Carnivore, Lee Kopus, on, and when he shared his story, about when he eats fiber and plants, how it fills up his bag, just gas and just sludge in there, and then he eat meat. There's nothing in there. The other thing he said too is like every one of these is a lesson. The quantity of animal food required for the full support of the system is so much smaller. So he's saying you need a lot of modern day people that are thinking of doing carnivore right now. They'll always say it's so expensive. I don't know how you can afford it. It is expensive. Meat's expensive. I'll give you that. But he's pointing out the fact that you need a less food when you're eating carnivore. And a lot of people that are coming from the standard American diet, they don't realize that because they're used to eating breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks in between. And they have that in their mindset that they're going to go eat meat. And they're going to eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks in between with meat. And we don't do that with meat because, as he points out here, you require so much less to be filled.
Right. I think I can actually give you the figures because I read the preface and I just off the top of my head, I think I can remember it. He said that he was living on meat for 1 shilling a day, and that was satisfying. He said before he went meat, he was spending 8 shillings a day on all these fancy foods. So, shillings, whatever. But this is, it was 12 pence back in the old days, but that's obviously a long time ago. So, in other words, he was spending 1/8 of what he was spending on his fancy foods when he was eating meat only. And he said, you could give me £1 million or whatever it was, or 1 million shillings. And he said, and I wouldn't spend any more than what I'm spending now. He said, because I wouldn't go back, even though if I was rich, I wouldn't start eating all these fancy foods again. He said, I think he said, I would rather have 1 hour of health than I would do all these fancy foods in the world. And so again, that's very similar to us. We say we'd rather have one day feeling like a true human being, and the question that Dave Mack always asks is or something similar. How much how much money would you take to go back off the carnivore diet? And we all say we just wouldn't, because nothing can actually compare. No financial gain can compare to how we feel on the carnivore diet. So he was another. That's the voice echoing down the years. He would have made a great Dave Mack, wouldn't he, Kerry? It's a great Dave Mack
for sure. Yeah, George. So I was just looking at the other link. So for those who are just joining us, we're talking about this amazing book right now, The Philosophy of the Stomach. And I left a link in the description so you can see the summary. And then, as George pointed out earlier, on the summary, there's another link to the full book, and he's actually got like illustrations in the book as well, which I didn't realize before. So,
yeah, I've got to point out to the audience that neither me nor Kerry are experts on this. It's just that I discovered him last week while I was doing some research for Dr. Nelson. Dr. Nelson very kindly put together a coach's history lesson, which he sent to me privately. And I thought, well, I think Kerry needs to know about this. So I in fact sent it to Kerry, DC over in Australia, and to Dave Mack in Japan. And Kerry got back to me and said, this is fascinating. And basically, Dr. Nelson said, it's there. It's important stuff. So that was how Kerry and myself then, Dr. Nelson was instrumental in basically taking us to the next level. And then we just done the research. But as I said, we're not experts. We're just scraping the surface of this book. So come and join us, guys. Start reading it and give us your feedback, because we'd love to hear it, either in in Healing Humanity or the KMT, or any other way on your channels. Have me on if you want to discuss it. Go and read it for yourselves, and then give a feedback on your channels. Coaches, I know half of us have got channels now, so yeah, be the first to give the full feedback. Beat me to it for once, because I'm too busy to actually do it myself.
I'm going through and looking at some of these other quotes. The summary is really cool because it really pulls out some of the good stuff.
Okay, I've got a couple more.
Okay. I'll give one thing, George, I was just thinking before you do that. So this gentleman was from London. So Carnivore originated, or I don't know if he was from there, but I think it says that's where he wrote the book.
No, he was German. He was actually a German living in London at the time.
Living in London, okay.
Yeah, and he wrote the book in English because he felt that basically he wrote it in London, and he wrote it in English because he wanted to practice his English. So all his notes were in English. So he apologized for if he got the language a bit wrong when he wrote the book. He said he thought about going back again to write it, to translate it into German, but all his notes were in English. So instead of wasting time, because he, like us, he wanted to get the word out there about the carnivore or the animal, exclusively animal diet. So he didn't want to waste time going back and rewriting the whole thing in German again. So he just published it in English because he was living in England, and that was what he had all his notes in. So yeah, he was in a hurry, and it was lucky he was, because otherwise he might have passed before he actually managed to publish the book. But no, he managed to publish the book in January of 1856 in English. But he was German, so fair play. We've got to hand that one to the Germans actually. So yeah, which obviously, being a Brit, we don't like to credit the French or our German neighbours with too much, but on this occasion, yeah, we have to credit the Germans for the for that one.
Right.
Oh, interesting point, Kerry. You mentioned earlier about the 1946 book, the three meats, eat three meat 3 times a day. Dr. Kiltz often weighs that one in front of us when we're on here with him.
That's now, I don't want to take credit, but I gifted that book to him.
Yeah. Okay.
Like,
Brilliant.
This is a perfect gift for. What do you get, Dr. Kiltz? The man has everything, right? Here
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. So again, but that's what we do in the carnivore community. We share the information. We don't keep it to ourselves so that we can make ourselves look good. We share that. We share the information. Now this kind of ties in with something which I discovered the other day. 1946 was obviously just after the Second World War, when meat was scarce. So, and interestingly enough, the word vegan appeared in the English lexicon in 1944, at the very end of the Second World War. I did know the name of the guy who invented it, Donald something, I think, or something, but an Englishman. And the first vegan society appeared in England in 1944. Vegan is merely an abbreviation of vegetarian. So veg, V-E-G, and then airy-an. So they just cut out the middle bit to distinguish themselves from vegetarians. And that was in 1944. I wonder sometimes, in fact, it just occurred to me, I wonder if this book was a counterpoint to the Vegan Society, because obviously the Vegan Society was trying to grow at the time and trying to sort of push its agenda, as it has been ever since. But I wonder whether this book was written as a kind of counterpoint to the vegan message. I wonder if it was the first clash of heads between veganism and meat eating.
Right.
But yeah, it's an interesting fact, everybody. When these vegans say that we've been around for a long time and the carnivore diet is just a fad diet, remember we started back in ancient history, but we actually got our first book together in 1856. The vegans didn't get themselves together until 1944. So who's been around longer? Who's the fad diet?
Right. The other thing I'm thinking, George, when we're talking about this, we're so blessed and lucky now. There's pros and cons, obviously, but with social media and YouTube and being able to get the word out and collaborate with other folks like we are here. But imagine back in his time, what would you do to get the word out? You'd have to write a book or maybe get a newspaper article or something like that. There's really no other way to get the message out.
Apart from going on stage, really, I suppose. But I mean, in Britain, in London, we have this place called Hyde Park, and on the corner of Hyde Park near Marble Arch, there is a place called Speaker's Corner, where you are entitled to go and stand on a soapbox, as we call it, and basically address the general public. I've been past there a few times, and there are people talking about all sorts of stuff, and basically I'm not sure if we still have that level of freedom of speech, because obviously we are now very much a state-controlled entity, as Stephen Thomas, Coach Stephen, welcome to state-controlled Britain. And this current government is probably one of the most they want to crush public opinion more so than any other government I've ever known, we've ever known. In this country, we've had a series of worst prime ministers ever, and we do have the worst prime minister ever now, and he is dangerous, but he is so unpopular that hopefully he will actually go. So you can actually you could use freedom of speech. You could go and address the general public in London. You could do it on stage, I suppose. But yeah, you're absolutely right. We've got social media. Now, there's one thing which we were talking about earlier as well, Kerry, because you and I really only came into the carnivore world in 23 or thereabouts. Somebody in our world found this book in 23 and posted it on the Facebook of the World Carnivore Tribe. but nobody seemed to pick up and run with it. Now, you and I were only just finding our feet in the carnivore community at the time. So obviously there was nobody out there quite as pushy as you and I are, because basically, you know, the reason we're talking together tonight is because obviously you picked up, you caught the bug off Dante, and you picked up the ball and ran with it, and then you created Healing Humanity. As I was explaining to you earlier, basically what I've done, I got the opportunity at the age of 60. I got a lump sum from the army, which is going to last me until after Christmas, so I don't need to actually do the day job anymore. So I'm using this opportunity now. I've become very pushy myself. I've done the course, set up the Great British Meetup. I've joined in with John Laspina on Carnival Sunday School, Carnival Sunday School. So basically, I've pushed myself into the public consciousness. I've joined the KMT. I do any possible camera work I can, because I think I'm trying to get them. I'm kind of the sort of the mad pushy person, the crazy pushy person, and take this as a compliment, Kerry, but so are you. So basically and so is Dr. Kiltz as well. So basically now I rediscovered this book, and the first thing I did was flag it up to Dr. Nelson, who flagged it back to me, and I flagged it up to you. So basically now we're not going to make the same mistake of just putting it on Facebook and leaving it. We are going to get it out to our coaches, the KMT and Healing Humanity, because we are kind of a crossover tonight. So coaches, guys, get out there, get on your channels, start shouting the word. You know, because basically what we don't want it to do is what happened in 2023. Somebody posted it on Facebook and forgot about it.
Right.
So yeah. So basically you've got two very pushy people here, me and Kerry. Kerry is basically has announced that he's got a fairly ambitious plan of healing humanity. And as you know, I have this very, very ambitious plan that I am going to unite the international carnivore community by myself, with the help of with Kerry and Dr. Kiltz. I noticed we got the fabulous Joe Archer from Nottingham in England in the chat tonight. I would love to see more English people and British people there, but we don't seem to, in my opinion, we don't really sort of integrate enough into the lives with our American friends, which I'm trying to change. Obviously, we got Dave Mack from Australia. We've got DC Rebuilding in Australia. Larry Holt, the carnivore pensioner. But come on, guys, we need to have more interaction between all the nations. As you know, as I think everybody here knows, I keep on going on about the fact that Dr. Kiltz accidentally sent me to Wyoming this year. It was supposed to be sort of like a nice prize for somebody local. The one person who from outside the States or Canada who entered that competition won it, and that was me. So I ended up in Wyoming, courtesy of Dr. Kiltz. I would like to see more interchange of people. I've got Dr. Kiltz coming over to the June meetup, the Great British Meetup next year. I think Angela Lero is coming over with him as well. I know you know Angela because she cooked you breakfast in London, I believe, Kerry. I would love to see. I'm going back for the Wyoming meetup, the Rendezvous City Beef Roundup next, and so is Lainey. She's coming over with me to there. I'm hoping to take a contingent, but I would love to see more. Should we call it carnivore tourism?
Yeah.
So an exchange of people. So, for example, Kerry, you come up one day and say, right, we've got Hack Your Health at Tampa Bay, for example. Say, right, come on, Brits, where are you? Come and join us. You know, we're going to make you welcome. We'll give you the treatment.
Feed you well. Get some more weather.
Feed you well. We can advise you on how to get around the place, on how to get here on the flights, and we will recommend the accommodation that you need, tailor it to your budget. Now, when I flew to Wyoming, I had to fly into Denver and then get the hop to Riverton. Now, I've got this fabulous friend from the carnivore community called Mark Caldwell, who lives down in Atlanta, Georgia, but he's a very successful businessman. He's got about 1 million miles in flight. So he knew that I was going to go to Denver. So very, very kindly, he sent me an entire how-to from the moment I left the airplane at Denver to the moment I got on the Riverton flight, going through TSA. I didn't have a clue what TSA was, about how to negotiate the concourse, the A, B, and C concourse on the underground train at Denver. So that's the sort of thing. It just made my life so much easier. So again, if anybody from the States wants to come over here, contact me and I'll tell you how to negotiate from London Heathrow to wherever you want to go.
Yeah.
If necessary, I can organise transport and accommodation. I've got a carnivore friendly hotel in my town, by the way, which I'm going to be putting Dr. Kilks up at next year. So that's what I mean by the interchange of the exchange, the tourism. We can do this, folks. Because it's daunting to go to another country when you don't know how to get around the place. You don't know what the accommodation is going to be like. You don't know anybody over there. But when I go over to the States now, I've got a family over in Wyoming, the McCanns. You know, if I wanted to go and visit Wisconsin, I would say, carry on coming to Wisconsin.
I was just going to say, George, we got to do it. We got to. We're trying to plan another meetup at the Montello movie theater, and so for people coming from London, you can fly right into Chicago, and it's a little bit of a drive. We're about 2.5 hours from Chicago, but every time I fly somewhere, I go to Chicago. So I think we haven't quite announced it yet, but I think we're going to do that one in March. But I've told you this before, George, and it's not flattery for the sake of flattery. I've been traveling. I've been very blessed traveling all over the world filming this documentary. Going to the UK is one of my favorite places. I've been there twice, and I love it there. So if anyone from the US is like thinking, oh, maybe I'll go here, maybe I'll go there, I love it there because I love history. I love the architecture. I love the buildings, but the people there are awesome. It was so nice. I never felt like more welcome any place that I've ever been. And there's just little tiny differences that, George, you probably don't know because you live there all the time, but between there and the US that I really liked. I think I've talked about this before, but when you're here in the US, we are inundated with pharmaceutical ads on TV and on the radio and billboards. And there was almost none of that when I was in the UK, which is just a little simple thing. But when you spend a couple of days there, you really realize it afterwards, too. The other thing I really liked was everything here is I love the United States. I'm not complaining, but everything here is so commercialized. Like you go to every city and it's the same. You got McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell, Dollar Store. It's like the same thing everywhere. UK, you're like this cool little historic building with a little grocery store in it. It's Sainsbury, I think it is.
Yeah, Sainsbury.
yeah, that's a big one, right? But there's a little. We went in one like older ones. So, anyways, I'm with you, George. I'd highly recommend get up there, and then if you can do it and do a meetup, like be with your carnivore people, it's so much fun.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the thing is that the tourism would be, I would think, based around a meetup. But for example, if you come to the Great British Meetup next year on June the 13th, and I can find you a good hotel anywhere near, I've got a couple of very good hotels in my hometown, which is about 17 miles from the meetup. But then again, if you wanted to stay on for a couple of days, then I can organise, I can find people to drive you around. Obviously it would be a tourist package, but I could actually organise a George tour of Stonehenge, Glastonbury, the Cheddar Gorge, where the cheddar cheese, the original cheddar cheese comes from, Wells Cathedral, a Gothic cathedral, the Fleet Air Museum, which you would probably call the Naval Aviation Museum. There's just so much that just to be seen, basically. So it's, so you could go to a meetup and then have the grand tour of the historical tour afterwards. And it will be the same presumably for us, because as we know, the Rendezvous City Beef Roundup was unfortunately cancelled this year, but I went anyway for 4 days, and I ended up going to Yellowstone Park. I ended up going out on the range for the day. I went around. So I think I sent you the picture for the thumbnail. I was up in Sinks Canyon in Lander. That was on the Saturday, and on Thursday we went to Thermopolis, which is the hot springs place. And Tyler and myself went for a dip in the hot springs there. We just had a fabulous time. It was great. So I did the tour without the meetup, if you know what I mean. But it was when I was, I'll tell you this story now. This isn't carnival, but when I was growing up, I used to watch the nature programs, and one thing that fascinated me was a thing called Old Faithful in Yellowstone. And I never thought I'd see it, and yet suddenly I found thanks to Carnivore, I suddenly found myself standing next to Old Faithful, and up she went. And I still am kind of pinching myself today, because Kerry, on March the 1st, 2022, I was an ill old man waiting to die. I was a heart attack waiting to happen. I was just trying to get a diagnosis so the British Army would admit liability for the estate I'd become, and basically make sure that my wife didn't lose the house when I died. 3.5 years on, and I've lived this just incredible dream that has taken me to unexpectedly to a childhood ambition to see Old Faithful in Yellowstone Park.
Amazing.
And this is from a guy who was waiting to die 3.5 years ago. It's amazing. You and me, Kerry, we have a very similar sort of story, losing over 100 pounds and just getting our energy and our zest for life back.
Yeah.
And
it's funny too, George.
Apologies for being so enthusiastic on screen, because
I was just going to say, I get that from people say that to me a lot. Like, oh, you're so passionate. You're so excited. And I think you get it, George. Like if you were almost dead a couple of years ago and now you're absolutely like, when I was almost dead a couple of years ago, I would have been happy to just be like, I just want to be normal, like, okay. But instead I'm like full of joy. I'm full of energy. And like you mentioned earlier, doing way more than I've ever done my entire life and having energy to do it and appreciation around it. It's hard not to be enthusiastic or passionate when you have that sort of experience. It's hard not to want other people to have that as well, especially when you look around in the world and so many people are suffering like we used to. I think sometimes I look around, I see like, it's not judging. It's just like, that was me and they're going through what I was going through and they don't have to do that. It's like, just listen. You don't have to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's but unfortunately, a lot of people who are closest to us and who've known us just for such a long for longest won't listen to us because they still see us as the person we used to be. What they don't see is the fact that we have changed into an entirely different human being. I think I think I can mention the Bible on this channel. There are certain we can't. But basically, if you actually read, I think Mark 4 or thereabouts. Mark chapter 4, maybe verses 1 to 15. It was when Jesus tried to preach in his own town of Nazareth, and he was amazed by their lack of faith and their lack of enthusiasm for him, because they all turned around and said, "But what's this bloke doing? He's just Joseph the carpenter's son. What's he doing trying to pretend to be an authority on anything?" And they actually, in the end, they threw him out of Nazareth. And he then remarked that a prophet will not be recognized in his hometown. And that's because basically he was known from a little boy up until he started his ministry, and they wouldn't take him seriously in Nazareth because they just saw him as Joseph the carpenter's son, not as the prophet that he obviously the Messiah that he actually was. So he had the same problem. So basically, folks out there, if your family and friends aren't listening to you, you're in pretty good company, to be perfectly honest with you. So there
puts it into perspective. Right. We had a couple comments come through. Let's see if you guys have any questions too. Feel free. Joe's Sleep and Slim Down says, "Thank you for your service, George. We don't say that enough in the UK, but my family has the most respect for veterans."
That's wonderful. Joe is a very good friend of mine. Joe Archer is a very good friend of mine that I met recently through the Cindy Dimanche channel. She lives in Nottingham, which is in the sort of North Midlands in this country. We were having a fantastic chat on WhatsApp just before about gluconeogenesis, glucagon, the effects of stress on blood sugar and ketones. She's actually got these. Joe, you had to remind me. It's a Sibio, I think it's called, the GKM, glucose ketone monitor. Were we talking about the other night? Carry on healing humanity life. I think we were, weren't we?
Yeah. I've got a Sibio. Is that what it is? Sibio? That's the one I have.
Yeah, I think so. Joe's got one, and she actually did a live, not a live today, but actually it might have been live, but I saw the replay, and she actually demonstrated it on her arm, and she said it's Sibio, and I think she's an agent for them or something. So, but Joe, you might want to put something in chat. So she basically was talking about ketosis and also that her ketones have dropped because she's been very stressed just recently. Mm-hmm. So I was able to point out the fact that stress increases gluconeogenesis. Glucagon is the hormone which triggers it. So we were having this really fascinating conversation on WhatsApp just before I was due to come on here. I suddenly looked up. I said, "Joe, I've got to run. Kerry's expecting me."
That's a great topic.
Joe, you very nearly kept me off screen tonight. Anyway, that is brilliant.
The stress topic is a really interesting one, though, because I think a lot of people suffer from that. Because I'll talk to people that are doing carnivore consistently for a long time, and then suddenly something happens and it's not working anymore, but they're still eating the same way. And I think a lot of times what is happening is they've got a lot of stress in their life and maybe they're not noticing it. They're just, I'm still eating carnivore. What's going on? But as you pointed out, when you have stress, there's a lot of downstream effects from that. I think people don't realize it can really impact you.
Yeah, it can actually take you out of ketosis. Joe has picked up on the research that I sent her, and she actually has. There's a word there which isn't cortisol. It's something. It's not cholesterol, but it's something else. And she has been told that she's got high levels of this. So I've just given her the clue that she needs. She's now going to take the research on. Because as I told her, what I do is I'm one of these irritating people who knows a little about a lot, but I'm not sort of like a master of any particular trade. But basically what I can do is point people in the right direction, as I hope I have done tonight with Bernard Moncrief. And then they can go and carry out their own research, much as you have done, much as Dr. Nelson did. Because believe it or not, on Tuesday night, when I delivered the lecture to the KMT without Dr. Nelson, Alia was in the chair, but he turned up at the very end of the lesson, and I told him that he had a detention for arriving late. But then he said he had a note from his mother, Dr. Kilt, because he'd been with Dr. Kilt, so I excused him. But I asked him the question. I said, Dr. Nelson, have you ever heard of Bernard Moncrief? Nope, he hadn't, not at all. But Alia, by this time, had done the basic research that you did and found the book and everything. By the next morning, Dr. Nelson had produced a lesson, an AI lesson on it. So that just shows, that, but he didn't know it. So that was none of us right. Did it, but now we all know about it. So it's just, like I said, it's no secret. It was very easy to find. Those who have gone before us have found it, but didn't do enough with it. But it's in the right hands this time. It's in Kerry's hands. It's in Dr. Nelson's, Ali's, Dr. Kilt's hands. My hands, as you know, I shout it from the rooftops. Yeah. I go on to anybody's channel, and obviously we've got people like Coach Juliet's in here tonight, who's got a rocking Coach Amy. They've got very active channels. Thomas, if you're here, I'm sure you'll put it on as well. Rick, you're out there as well. I can see you do 8 hours on a Saturday. Get the word out there, guys. Use it on your channels. Yeah.
Here's one more quote I wanted to share. Every quote I've read, I'm like, I want to talk about this one. This one was my face, from being rather shallow, became clear and youthful. My eyes serene and mirrors of happiness. It gave me unknown or rather forgotten pleasure to jump over a ditch. You mentioned that part of it. So the fact that basically saying skin became better and more youthful, which we hear time and time and time again from people going carnivore. Your skin, you're glowing, you're looking younger, you're looking healthier. And then the other thing, my eyes serene and mirrors of happiness. I don't know if you've come across this, George, but I have so many times. In fact, for our documentary, not the documentary movie, but the series, we're going to have several episodes. And one of them I wanted to do was just on eyes and vision, because I've heard so many people report their vision improves on carnivore, which is almost unbelievable. When you're talking to people that aren't carnivore and they're like, you guys are crazy. Yeah, really, your vision's improving. These people have it in their medical records, right? They go get they get their eyes checked before and after, and they're improving. And then the eye doctor's like, what the heck is going on here? Most people's vision gets worse as they get older. And it's just inflammation, I think, is what is happening.
But I am jealous because I'm still waiting for that to happen to me. But it hasn't. I'm still waiting, still hoping.
The vision is one. And then the other thing I hear a lot of people say is almost just the eye look, I don't know how to describe it. They just look healthier and clearer than before, where maybe they were more bloodshot, and maybe that's part of the inflammation too. But he noted that here, which I thought was really interesting, because after talking to so many carnivores, that's a major thing: skin and eyes improving on carnivore.
Yeah. Okay. Right. There's one thing else I want to point out, and that's it. Previous other people who've claimed to have discovered something, whereas in fact it was in use before. Now, I don't want to denigrate Dr. Shawn Baker here, because what he did is he revived the animal exclusive diet and called it the Carnivore Diet. But I'll tell you another story about this. You've heard of the 5-2 diet? I take it. Do you know about the 5-2 diet? The 5-2, no. 7 days in a week. A guy called Michael Mosley from the UK, he died last year. In 2013, wrote a book about the 5-2 diet, whereby you eat what you want for 5 days a week, but you fast for 2 days. So it's a simple intermittent fasting diet, basically. But he called it the 5-2 diet, and he claimed it. I can tell you that diet was invented at least 30 years before, in 1983, because my brother put me on it. My older brother actually put me on the 5-2 diet because I was a fat teenager, and I wasn't. He was a quite athletic ex-Marine, Royal Marine, and he wanted his younger brother to get the benefits of being fit and healthy. So he devised a 5-2 diet for me, which meant that between Sunday at 7 o'clock in the evening and Wednesday at 7 o'clock in the morning, I drank only water, and then I would go for a run on a Sunday afternoon, and then I'd go for a run on a Wednesday afternoon, and I'd cycle and walk everywhere in between. So that was a classic case of intermittent fasting. But he called it the 5-2 diet. And then suddenly, 30 years later, Michael Mosley claimed to have invented the 5-2 diet, wrote a book about it, and has been credited with it ever since. So, and I said to my brother, I said, why don't you challenge this? He said, well, I've got no interest. He said, I did it for you. I said, I had no interest in making money out of it. So that's a classic case of where somebody has claimed to invent something, made a stack of money out of it without actually being the originator. Good luck to Dr. Shawn Baker, because he revived it. But obviously we had Bernard Microwave in 1856. But I'd like to actually shout out somebody else here, because there is a chap out there who actually invented or actually went on the diet, the animal, back in 1983. His name is Rick Rodriguez from Miami, otherwise known as Charger Mopar. But he didn't call it the carnivore diet. What he in fact did is call it the heart attack diet, which was very tongue-in-cheek, because those of us who know his story know that he was very miserable at the time, and he thought it was basically be a suicidal attempt by going on a diet which would give him a heart attack. And Rick, you're in the yes, and he also the originator turned. Rick, I know you're in there tonight. He said, so I'm giving you a shout out, because you were the originator of the heart attack diet, which is no question is in fact a forerunner, or in fact the same diet as the carnivore diet. But as you said, you did it as a joke, not as a serious thing. And it wasn't fair enough until after Dr. Baker encouraged the carnivore diet that Rick actually discovered the carnivore community roughly the same time as us, even though he's a 42-year carnivore. So yeah. Anyway, congratulations, Rick. And I just want to flag up the fact that the heart attack diet was your invention in 1983. And I know you like to do interviews and that sort of thing. So maybe Kerry will talk to you about that, because obviously you'll get a far bigger audience than we can offer you on our little channels, and you tell that story brilliantly. Anyway, that's just a classic case of sometimes you think something's new when it's not. Right. It has been around. It has had reincarnations several different times before, including 1983. Which is the same year as my brother put me on the 5-2 diet, as a matter of interest. So yeah, while I was doing the 5-2, and I lost 28 pounds actually at the age of 17, and sorted out the fact that I was a fat hormonal teenager getting no attention from the opposite gender, shall we say, and losing that 28 pounds. And that got sorted out pretty quickly, shall we say. So thank you to my brother for the 5-2 diet, which is intermittent fasting. Right. So yeah. So at the same time as Rick was trying to give himself a heart attack, I was trying to make myself fitter. And I think it worked. It worked for me, but it didn't work for Rick. So there we go.
George, another quote I see in here. I love this one. When we filmed Rancher Maggie for the documentary, she said something similar. Men had better eat to live than live to eat.
Yeah, exactly. That's another one which I noticed from the notes that this guy who wrote the synopsis. There's just so much great stuff in it, isn't there?
Yeah.
The most wholesome diet is that which requires the least quantity of matter to be introduced into the digestive cavity for the support of the system. Why? Because he believed that your athletic ability would improve if you had a smaller, shorter intestine, which would mean that your lungs and heart, your upper chest cavity, would have more scope for expansion. So you'd have a bigger heart and lungs. Now, I know, because I'm interested in horse racing, that when the Great Horse Secretariat, who I think most of you will have heard of, died, they did an autopsy on him, and they found that he had an exceptionally large heart and lungs. So that was a classic case of a really great athlete, equine athlete, having a big heart and lungs. And what Moncrief believed, that he massively improved his athletic performance because he shrank his intestine, which gave a lot more room for his heart and lungs to develop. And I think Secretariat is a classic case of that, because they found he had a massive heart. So yeah, it's just, he was so far ahead of his time. He was certainly so far ahead of the doctors of the time.
And wisdom too, lots of wisdom when I'm reading this. Here's another one: a perfect healthy man could have only one appetite, and this a sound one, while the false appetite could only exist with imperfect health.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
If you're hungry all the time and you have cravings all the time, it's probably because you have imperfect health. And most carnivores are not hungry all the time. We
no, exactly right. Yeah,
eat and we're satiated.
Yeah,
which is a sign of good health.
It's probably worthwhile mentioning actually that he had an inspiration himself, a guy from the 16th century, believe it or not, called Luigi. What was his name? Luigi Cornaro, otherwise known as Louis Cornaro. If you look him up, he was an Italian nobleman who, at the age of 40, was basically, like most of us, was waiting to die. Because he put it down to his alcoholism and his promiscuity. He basically lived the high life, the rock and roll life. But at the age of 40, he decided to instead of just dying young, he actually decided to live a sober lifestyle. And he wrote a book called Discorsi della vita sobria, which means discourses on a temperate or sober life. And he actually went on to live to over 80. And it was basically, he was the inspiration for Bernard Moncrief. Now, it doesn't say anything about Cornaro being a carnivore or anything like that, but he did live a modest, sober lifestyle and ate whole foods and that sort of thing. So he was the inspiration. His longevity inspired Moncrief. He's worthwhile having a look at as well. Unfortunately for Cornaro, he was around at the same time as a massive influencer called Friedrich Nietzsche. I'm sure some of the people in our would have heard of Nietzsche, because he has institutes and everything named after him. Unfortunately, Nietzsche felt that Cornaro was a threat to his fame, a bit like Ansel Keys, therefore did a character assassination on him. So he was around at the wrong time, just as poor old Professor John Eucken was around at the same time as Ansel Keys. Ansel Keys didn't want him around, so basically did a character assassination. Nietzsche did the same thing to Cornaro. What goes round comes round. Plus ça change. Nothing ever changes.
Here's one more. The teeth of carnivorous animals in a state of nature have not been seen to be decayed. What is always the case with those of vegetable eaters. The dog, which is often subject to toothache, has probably to thank this to the corruption of his natural diet is undergoing in the domesticated state.
These are the words of Lynn Tucker Carnivore, who's got her own dogs, as we know, and who absolutely insists, and she posts on Facebook all the time, get your dogs on a carnivore diet. And she put a very emotional video on YouTube the other day, in which she cried over the fact that she basically felt that she let her dogs down by feeding them kibble when she didn't know that. Lynn is one of my oldest friends in the carnivore community, and we talk behind the scenes quite a lot. And yeah, she really feels guilty about what happened to her. I
love Lynn, and we have the same love for dogs and the same regret also. Jen and I, we've often talked about that. We had a golden retriever, and we're like, everything that he was going, we have 2 dogs now, and they're carnivore now. They're probably carnivore for about 2 years now. Everything that Lynn talks about, it's so true. Their coat's shinier, their energy's better, everything is a million times better. But like Lynn, we have those regrets, right? I wish we could have went back to our previous dog, and oh my goodness, if we would have been feeding him this way, would have lasted several more years for sure, and not suffering, not with all the arthritis and trouble breathing and all of that stuff.
Yeah, exactly right. And also, can I just mention about the fact that I don't know what it is, but our little gang in the KMT, we seem to be cat crazy. I have 2 cats. Obviously, Bill, not member of the KMT, but he's got Daisy, the superstar. We have Rick with Milton. I know that Rocking Coach Amy has got a cat. Joe, who's just joined us tonight, has got Miss Daisy. we can actually sort of be chatting on Carnivore Live, but the entire chat is actually just about cats. So it's almost like a sub-subject, if you like, within. Like, we're here to talk about carnivore, but we end up talking about cats all the time. But of course, cats are carnivores, and yeah, we do just discuss their habit of. Yeah, there's Rick. I love Milton. Yeah, so do we, Rick. We all love Milton, and just like we all love Daisy.
We've
and
got
you've got,
three.
You've got little Daisy as well, haven't you, Kerry?
Yeah, we have 3 cats: Little Daisy, Tiggs, and Sweet Pea. So, and they're all carnivore now too. So we grind up our own food for the animals, and it used to just be for the dogs, and then the cats came on board, and so now we do it, and it's like a whole day process getting all this food ground up for the animals. But yeah, the cats too, noticeably different when they're eating their proper diets.
Yeah. Okay, so I've just started the cat conversation in chat, and
there we go.
Rocking Coach Amy's got 4 cats. I know that Louis Lotito, who's at the wedding tonight, he's not with us. I think he has 10.
Wow.
So yeah, we've got and also we've got Gemette, who's George Catsrell. You see, I've started the cat conversation again, Kerry. We've lost the carnivore thread. We're on to cats, the cats and dogs now. But we all love talking about our cats and dogs, don't we? So it's no surprise.
Oh.
Amy's asking you if you have any videos on your carnivore cat food making.
I do not, but we do have 2 or 3 on the dog food, and it's the same stuff. So we just feed it to the cats. It's the same thing.
Okay, so there we go.
We let's see. Oh, we got Papa Carnivore in the chat. Ketovore Farm Mom, hello. Karen, Travis, anyone got a good Thanksgiving recipe to share?
Yep. Roast turkey, nothing else.
There you go. That's what I was going to say. I made one the other day. Jen and I were doing a video. I smoked a turkey in the smoker, and I did a salt brine with it, and it was very good. But yeah, just roast a turkey.
Yeah. Kerry, we have turkey for Christmas here in the UK. Have you ever heard the term pigs in blankets over in the States?
Yeah.
What would you call? Well, how would you describe them?
So here, when we used to, I don't do it on Carnivore anymore, but when we'd have pigs in a blanket, it would usually be a family get together. It's an appetizer, and it's like a little sausage with like a bread thing around it.
Okay. That in the UK is what we call a sausage roll, which is different. A pig in a blanket is a sausage, just like you mentioned, but the blanket is bacon wrapped around it.
Oh.
So that traditionally here in the UK, where we have the Christmas turkey, which we always wrap in bacon anyway, because obviously you need to add you baste it with butter, then you hold the butter in place with the bacon wrapped around the turkey, and then alongside it you roast the pigs in blankets, the sausages with the bacon around it. So yeah, I really feel that I should actually be exporting the idea of pigs in blankets to America, because then I could do business with America, and that would give me a good excuse to come over there, wouldn't it?
You had me at bacon.
Yeah, exactly. So pigs in blankets, you can actually buy them commercially in the supermarkets here. So guys, anybody out there who wants to actually pick up the ball and run with it, get your sausages, wrap it in bacon, roast it alongside your turkey, and that is pigs in blankets. And hey, did I just start something over in the USA tonight? I hope I did.
Go. I think so. I am for wrapping any type of meat with bacon. It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's my favorite.
Get yourself a good 97% meat pork sausage, or 100% if you possibly can. Wrap it in bacon, and you've got pigs in blankets, and that goes really, really well with a smoked or roast turkey. So that's a little tip for Thanksgiving, just before a gift from the UK to the USA for Thanksgiving. How about that?
Love it. What was I going to say? Oh, so George, we were talking. Someone was thanking you for your service earlier.
That was Joe.
Joe, we got to get you guys. We got to get you out to Montello. At Montello Theater, we did this. We've been doing it for about 2 years now, where veterans are free forever. So if anyone is watching locally and you're not familiar, veterans are free forever at Montello. Well, the reason I'm bringing it up is tomorrow we did this whole event. We told the Veterans Association nearby, we're like, you guys can have the whole movie theater. And so a gentleman's coming tomorrow, a veteran of Vietnam. He's coming tomorrow to the theater, and he's doing a presentation. He's got slideshows from when he served in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, he's playing the movie We Were Soldiers, which is a really good movie, a realistic Vietnam movie, I think, with Mel Gibson in it. So
yeah, was it When We Were Soldiers or We Were Soldiers? When
we were soldiers. We were soldiers.
When they went in, they dropped in and they got surrounded by the Vietnamese army, and then it was a very sad. Basically, it was the first major setback I think that the Americans had in that particular conflict. I remember it was definitely Mel Gibson. He was the colonel, and I remember his wife. There was no real plan about how they went round and broke the news of the deaths of the men, and she went round herself individually to everybody and broke the news. It was very, very sad film.
Heartbreaking.
It was.
I can't believe I was just looking. They came out in 2002.
Yeah, wow. That makes sense. Yeah. I mean, I was in the army myself when Platoon came out all those years ago with Charlie Sheen and Tom Berenger, and that was another very sad one as well. Just a quick one to pick up on the pigs and blankets. I noticed that Susan E, UK USA lady, is in the chat, so obviously she has a UK connection, and she has actually picked up the ball and run with it because the sausages that we use are chipolata sausages. She put that in the chat. Do you guys know what chipolata sausages are?
No.
They're small. They're kind of small sausages. They're kind of halfway between a cocktail sausage and a full-blown sausage. So they're basically smaller type sausages. But I noticed that Susan E, UK USA lady, obviously knows what they are. So
Coach Juliet says, I'm doing the right pigs in a blanket, the carnivore way. There we go. That's awesome, George. I'd never heard of that. And that's one of the things, too, that, I don't know, on carnivore, that's like a popular appetizer here is the one with bread around it. So
that's a sausage roll over here, which is a classic pastry. It's a puff pastry, and it's a classic sort of buffet type serving. You know, when you got the buffet, you got your pizza, your sausage rolls, your pork pies. All of it fit in your sandwiches. It fits in with the meat and carb combination, if you know what I mean. Whereas the pig in the blanket is clean. It's get the right sausage and it's clean. So it's a lot better, really.
There we go. Sausage wrapped bacon. Ricky Lee says, I need a blanket made from bacon.
Yeah, the only problem is you wake up in the morning with no blanket left, would you? Because you'd eat it in your sleep.
Coach Amy said, I need to check out Carrie's chicken cordon bleu because I have a ton of chicken breasts to use. Yeah, we did that one like 2 weeks ago. And the funny thing with that was talking about bacon, I added bacon to it. And it really, because you got to add bacon to everything, right? So it was chicken, ham, cheese, and bacon. Bacon in the middle. So can't go wrong with bacon.
Rick is suggesting iguana in a blanket. I'm not quite sure what sort of a blanket you'd be thinking of. Iguana, maybe an alligator skin or something, I don't know. But you'd have to have a lot of bacon. But I suppose not really. You just get enough bacon and you can put an iguana in a blanket. Yeah, why not? Susan's back with George at our local farm shop sells pork sausages that taste just like chipolatas. So obviously, I suspect that Susan is probably in the USA as we speak, but from the UK. Yeah, so therefore, you can actually be the leader over there and show our American friends how it's done, Susan. So, I can point you in the right direction, but you get out there and tell the community, give them the Thanksgiving tip. You know, that's what I said. Anybody could have done it. Everybody thought that somebody would do it, so in the end, nobody did it. But tonight. We're going to change that because we are going to do it. We are going to share these ideas between the UK and the USA, and we're going to make it happen, folks.
Jeanette says, Carrie, your friend Bill Knott is an inspiration to all. I agree. This is my favorite Bill Knott picture, by the way. Bill's been on some good YouTube videos. If you guys aren't watching Bill on YouTube, go check him out. He's got a couple really, really good ones recently.
I think I've got an idea, Carrie, that it was your sort of campaign to find Bill that actually it caught my attention, and I suddenly felt I got absorbed in this story because I've definitely been following you since just about the day when you said to Bill, reach out to me, come on, do it. So I think that basically, Bill got you and I together, if that makes any sense.
That's awesome.
So I think we can actually indirectly, well, no, possibly even directly, basically thank Bill for the fact that you and I are having this great and very lively conversation tonight. Without Bill and your sort of appeal to him, I think it caught the imagination of the entire carnivore world, because we also wanted you to find Bill.
Yeah, well, a lot of people don't know that we're in the process of editing the documentary. We're almost done with it now. It's really coming along. But that was one part. Like, do we even talk about the Bill meeting? Because it could almost be 45 minutes on its own how all of that happened. The short of it was Bill saw one of my YouTube videos and he left me a long comment. I answered back, and he never responded. And I kept going back, dude, let's do it. He was talking about maybe I could start a YouTube channel. Maybe that would give me a little bit more money so that I could afford some meat, because it's expensive in Alaska. But he never saw my thing. And then, long story short, I ended up doing a whole video that was just attention 700-pound guy from Alaska with a random thumbnail of just a guy, and I blurred his face out. And the funny thing is, Bill saw that video, and when he first saw it, he told me this when we went to visit him last time. When he saw it, he was like, "Oh, this is crazy. There's some other 700-pound guy in Alaska that this guy's reaching out to." It took him a second to realize that I was talking about him. And then he called me, I think, that night after seeing that video, and the rest is history. But we went back and forth for a couple of weeks where I was actually really scared, because the letter that he sent me was really desperate.
Yeah, I remember it. I can even remember I was driving home from work. I can even remember the village that I was driving in when I was actually listening to you, and it just became such a compelling story that it was that I wanted to tune in the next day, because I so desperately want the whole world did. All of us who were around in the carnivore community at that time and who were listening to you, we all were just hanging on the edge of our seats. We so wanted Bill to reach out to you, and then of course he did, and it was yes.
Yeah, it's amazing how Bill always says it's providence. It's all part of a bigger plan, which is so
of course
true.
Nearly everything that we do is. I've changed my view on destiny and faith and fate massively since in the last 3.5 years. My friends don't even know me now, because I've definitely got a spiritual side to me which I never had before. I've got a copy of the the New Testament here in the where is it? It's here somewhere. This was a gift to me in Wyoming. It's the Cowboy Way, the Way of the Cowboy, which is the New Testament. So I keep it here for reference all the time. I was telling you about the when Jesus got himself thrown out of Nazareth, and it's in here. So I've got that. I've got the Serenity Prayer on the wall above me. I was very cynical about all masses of faith up until fairly recently, but now I've seen too many miracles happen.
Yeah,
I've had so many things that have gone wrong, but they've gone wrong for a reason, and that is because they've opened another door, which I wasn't expecting. I mean, a classic case, Kerry. I flew over United Airlines to Denver from Heathrow, and I made friends with this lovely lady from Denver called Sandy. She was very tall. She would have been she was older than me, but she would have been a hell of a model, Bill, in her youth. And she was lovely, looked after me greatly. On the way back, there was a massive delay, and I had to get rescheduled from my earlier flight for United Airlines onto a later flight. I got on there, and basically, had I got my normal flight, I would have had a new cabin crew. Got on there was Sandy waiting for me. She said, "George," I said, "Sandy," and of course, we actually had this big hug, very unprofessional, but and she said, "Oh, it's so great to see you." She said, "We got a really empty flight tonight." She said, "I'm going to make sure you get a whole row of seats to yourself." So basically, it felt like a disaster. It felt like a disaster because my flight was delayed, and I was really nervous I wasn't going to get home. But in fact, Sandy's words were, I told her, he said, "It was meant to be." Because basically whoever was up there realized that me and Sandy got on really well on the way out. So they decided to delay my flight so that I could hook up with her again. Well, not hook up with her, I'm saying I could be friends with her again on the way back through. And she actually said it was meant to be. It's just these little things, Kerry, that are just inexplicable. Yeah. Other than just just have faith and believe that it was meant to be.
George, that's been one big thing, interviewing so many people for the documentary or on my YouTube channel that I've found that is really incredible. Similar to you, that people feel like their relationship with God, their closeness with God is improved. I experienced the same thing myself doing this. And it always sounds like I'm overhyping carnivore, but it's not. It's just that when you're sick and you're depressed and you're on a couch, you don't have any energy, it's hard to even have a relationship with your family or yourself, let alone with the higher power. So that's been one of the beautiful things going on this journey. It's something I try to remind our good friend Bill of too, because Bill has a big passion for helping people find that. I'm like, Bill, you are, by inspiring them to do carnivore, they get their health back. When we interviewed Rancher Maggie, I remember her saying this, and she said that when your body's sick, your brain is sick, your spirit's sick.
Yeah.
All three of them. You got to heal your body before you can heal your brain and heal your spirit. And it's so true. And I see it over and over again for people that are doing this, that they fix their metabolic health, they fix their body, they fix their brain, and then their spirit, they can start strengthening that as well. And it's a beautiful thing when you see it happen.
Yeah, I hadn't linked the spirit because obviously we've got the George Reed's fix your mind, fix your body, fix your diet, fix your brain. But I love the addition of the spirit there, because there's no question that my spirit is now back. I lost it. I was cynical, miserable, angry. I'm still angry to a certain extent that I wasted 56 and a half years of my life, but I also am great. I've got the gratitude attitude because I wake up every morning, and I've lost so many friends recently, including Alex and various other people, who will never see another sunrise again in history. Not I was going to say in their life, but of course their life is over. So they will never see another sunrise. So the first thing that I do every morning nowadays is I ask Alexa to play me Morning Has Broken by Cat Stevens, because I have seen another dawn, and I am grateful for every sunrise that I see.
George, this is a good way to end the call, because
that cannot be no, I'm sorry, Kerry, but that can't have been an hour and a half, because you must have wound on the clock. You must have got bored me or something, because there is no way that was an hour and a half, surely.
Yeah, it's crazy. It went by quick. What you just said there, though, gets me a little emotional, because that is another thing. There's like interviewing so many people for the documentary. You go in for one reason or another, but that was another commonality amongst almost all of them. Just this profound gratitude they have after doing this. I remember when we interviewed Mimi, the woman that had Parkinson's and a full-blown stroke. And she was like, I wake up almost in tears, overflowing with gratitude just to see another sunshine in the morning. And I'm like, that is amazing. That is beautiful. And I feel my gratitude is going up too. But then you think about it too, and you're like, all these carnivore friends, you've talked about this, George. We've made so many carnivore friends, and it's great. And who doesn't want to hang out with someone like that, right? Someone that is waking up overflowing with joy and gratitude just to see the sunshine. Like, those are the people I want to hang out with and spend my time with more.
Well, exactly. I mean, it's the reason why I'm having so much great fun with the KMT, because I don't know if you ever come on the KMT at 6 a.m. Eastern time, Kerry, but the chat there is absolute. It's just, I mean, it's ridiculously early in the morning for you guys, but everybody's just full of energy. We're all laughing. We're all taking the mickey out of each other and that sort of thing. And you know, and you wouldn't believe it. We are this wonderful tribe, as Dr. Kills calls us. And you've got the same thing in Healing Humanity Life, but most of us are on a crossover anyway. So yeah, it's just the enthusiasm, the friendship, I was having a private conversation with Amy earlier on, Rock and Coach Amy. And, we're sort of like because we both got a mind, well, not fair. We both got a bit of a health problem, which has got nothing to do with carnivore. And we are the twins in this health struggle. It's like we're the sort of brother and sister now. She's my sister across the water. Papa Carnivore is my twin in diabetes over there. It's just incredible. We just got this really solid friendship between all of us. It's but we get a chance to see each other because we go on each other's channels, and and then often we'll have a chat show like Thomas, for example, Target Prime. We'll just go and say, right, there's the link. Come and join me. Come and join the party. And we just go on. We're on there for a chat. Yeah, we're all carnivores, but often it ends up with cats. or pajama parties, didn't it, Juliet? Didn't it, Amy? I found myself on at a pajama party last Friday night with Amy and Juliet, and several other people were on there as well. It's just fun. We are fun. We are full of energy, full of life. And when you've got a group of people full of energy, full of life, it kind of gets it. It has a life of its own.
Yeah.
Which you don't get with cynical people.
Right.
With people who all they want to do is moan about their aches and their pains, and they can't get to see their doctor. But we haven't got those concerns because, it's very rare that we have to see the doctor unless you've got a hernia like I have, but like Dr. Kills have, because unfortunately Carnivore doesn't fix hernias. So I'm still waiting on, but it's one of the very few things that it doesn't fix. But it does manage the inflammation, I've noticed. It's not as troublesome as it was. So that's one benefit from it.
Well, it makes you think, George. Hopefully, Bernard's prediction will come true that one day everyone will be animal-based. Because could you imagine if the whole world had that gratitude and that energy, that carnivore zen?
Yeah,
everyone.
We'd all be out hugging each other, wouldn't we? Instead of like trying to start international wars and World War III's, because we'd be all so happy about the way life was going. Who is it? I read something the other day. I can't remember who it was, but basically they pointed out that most of the biggest troublemakers in history weren't great meat eaters, such as Napoleon. And I know that the man from World War II, for the last 3 years of his life, was in fact essentially a vegan. Interesting. Yeah, I can't remember who it was or where I saw it, but it made me think that most of the people who've really started the major conflicts have been not carnivore. Interesting, isn't it, really?
Yeah. Awesome. Well, George, this has been great. Oh, we got another super chat from Ricky Lee. Thank you so much, Ricky. Really appreciate that. George, you're amazing. I enjoyed talking to you. We should do some more of these.
Anytime. Basically, I'll tell you what, Kerry, just when like Thomas or Rick or somebody has an open house, just come and look for us and jump on. That would surprise the carnivore world, wouldn't it? So it'd be great. Juliet and Amy, they've just been talking about a pajama party. That was great fun. I say Thomas goes on virtually every day and says, "I'm bored, I'm lonely. Come and join me." And and that's what we do. That's how we spread community. When I started, it was all about the recorded interview and how did you find the Dave Max style, basically. But now it's become a lot more informal, like what we are doing, like what we're doing tonight is a live. This is not a recorded interview, and we got half the carnivore world in. We certainly got the KMT and the Healing Humanity in there, and hopefully we've got one or two newer people as well. I know Joe is relatively new. Joe from Nottingham is joining the KMT on Monday. She didn't know about the 6 a.m. meetups. I told her about that earlier, sent her the link. She's joining us on Monday. So all my KMT friends out there, be prepared to welcome another English lady, fine English lady, who's actually coming on Carnivore Sunday School in a couple of weeks' time as well. So give her a big welcome when she turns up on Monday. This is just, Kerry, it's just absolutely amazing. This whole journey, this whole community.
Yeah,
I can't wait to write my book next year about how I discovered carnivore and then discovered the community, how I bullied my way into the American community, and basically ended up here having basically great fun with you and with our friends. So
yeah, this has been a lot of fun. Well, I really appreciate it. I wanted to just shout out real quick before we wrap up Thomas Target Prime Rib. We were talking about Thomas. Thomas has a great YouTube channel. He's looking for more interviews, so go share your story. Go on.
Hang on a second. I think he's got somebody on January the 1st or something, hasn't he, Kerry? Is that right?
Well, I went on. I think Jen. I think Jen's going on.
I was setting you up there. I know it's Jen is going on Thomas on January the 1st.
January 1st. Yep. I'm trying to get Emma, Thomas. I'm trying to get Emma to do it. She's chicken. She's a carnivore and she's chicken. She's nervous about streams with people. I can't even get her on my own channel anymore. But
it's unbelievable. Thomas will keep on doing this. When we're having a coach, I can never get anybody to come on my channel. Next thing you know, he's saying, I've got Dr. Nelson, I've got Jen Mann, I've got these people, but they'll still say, I can't get anybody to come on my channel. But basically, and of course we've got Rick out there as well, who's he will go on anybody's channel at any time. So he would like to. I know he'd like to come onto HomesteadHow. So maybe you can you can actually give Rick a bit of an airing one day because then it'll stop going on.
Rick's got an open invite. I had Rick on before for live streams before, and we've chatted before. So let me know, Rick.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So I've done my bit of diplomatic work there for you, Rick. So that's great. Oh, talking of diplomatic work, Kerry, I think we successfully managed to put Louise in contact with Adam about we're going to try and get the merchandise over to the UK for Healing Humanity.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because just a quick word about Louise. She is an ambassador for both the Noakes Foundation in South Africa and the Public Health Collaboration in the UK, and she's a fantastic person. So it was her idea. She felt that she has an idea about how we can get we can cut out the shipping costs by basically having a franchise for the HH merch over in the UK. So we are not me personally. I was just a diplomat. But I know that Adam and Louise are working on maybe setting up a franchise operation for Healing Humanity over here. So hopefully we can start shifting more T-shirts and us Brits can actually get them for slightly cheaper than we're having to do at the moment. I am, of course, flying the flag tonight.
Appreciate it. I got mine on every day.
Exactly, yeah.
People are like, do you ever change your shirt, Kerry? I'm like, no, it's pretty comfortable. I changed this one.
I could do another couple of these, really, but it'd be a lot better if I could get them direct from the UK versus having to have them shipped over from Wisconsin. So anyway, it's actually life. We'll see. We'll see how that one goes. Watch the space, as they say.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, George. This has been great. If anyone's just watching, you're not following George yet, I have a link in the description for George's YouTube channel. And thank you guys all so much for joining us tonight. This was a lot of fun. I really appreciate it, George. We'll see you. We'll see you very soon. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night, all.
Bye, everyone.
Beep.